What's happening, everyone, and welcome back to Park Lane Podcast, episode number 39. And we're getting very close to the here we go. But before we get into it, do not forget to hit the subscribe button. Do not forget to like the video. And if you're listening on any podcast platform, don't forget to follow and leave us a review. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can also leave a comment as well. So let's get into it. My name's Luke, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Harry Scarf. Harry, how you doing?
No, I'm very good, thank you. Excited because we've got a lot of news, a lot going on today. So yeah, excited to dive deeper into it if you like. But no, it's good to be here again.
And I'm joined by probably the best guest we've ever had on this channel. When he was back on the channel before it even became a channel, it's Wes. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, all good. Thank you, Luke. Yeah, grateful for the call up. I know it's been a while. Yeah, loads and loads of things have been happening, not only for Spurs, but for myself as well. But yeah, looking forward to chewing the fat on a few things tonight, definitely.
Exactly. I thought to myself, Big Ange, tactics. Who am I going to call up? The best football coach I know, Wesley.
Thank you.
Exactly. What an intro you've had today. Anyway, so for those of you that live under a rock, it looks like we are getting ever so closer to who I'm naming Big Ange. I'm not sure whether he appreciates that, but I'm sure he'll let me know if he doesn't. Big Ange coming to Spurs. Now, Harry, let's start with you because, you're very outspoken on a lot of things, Tottenham Hotspur, but what I do know about you is that you are a supporter whatever happens. So regardless of your views on certain things, you will always support the club. But yeah, I've been, watching a little bit on social media. You're slowly coming around to Big Ange. I can feel it. Talk to me.
Well. I won't go that far, but no. But listen, I know that it's probably slightly underwhelming when we've been linked with the likes of the Slots, the Nangelsmans, the Potocchinos, Enriques. It is obviously going to be underwhelming. But time will tell. And Luke, although I think there's definitely managers that we should have gone for, what I'm slowly coming round to is the fact that we've got Celtic fans, not wanting to let him go at the moment. And we will be able to get our old style of football back, which is great to enjoy watching our football club again. He's coming with kind of the standard low expectation, low, almost like as an underdog, as you like. So I really hope he succeeds and proves people wrong, like he did with Celtic, and I hope he proves me wrong as well. That'd be fantastic. But no, I'll be fully behind him, despite what I probably said overall earlier on in the week. And it's also good to get away from those big ego managers in the Contes, the Mourinhos. So no, it's fantastic, and we shall see whether it's a Daniel Levy appointment or the correct appointment.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to read out this comment. So thanks to everyone that's new in the comments. Please do make sure you're hitting the subscribe button to show support to the channel. We really do appreciate it. But they've said, Mirren Mania has said, being a St Mirren fan, I've had the chance to watch Ange quite a lot this season. What I can say is I feel Ange will be a good manager for you guys, good style of football, and can run a good team. So that actually moves me on. Do you know what? I'll shout out Harry Kane number 10. Then good evening, dear chaps. I will move on actually to a conversation I had probably, I want to say 10 minutes ago. So before I come on. So for those that don't know, I live in Glasgow. So pretty much everyone around here is either Celtic or Rangers. I just so happened to live next door to big Celtic fans. So I was leaning over my fence this afternoon and I was talking to my next door neighbour, which is a proper boring story, but helps with this Big Ange talk. So I was talking to him and I said, looks like Ange is going to move to Spurs. And obviously he knows I'm a Spurs fan. And he was, it was a really interesting chat because he was absolutely gutted about it, but can also understand, why a top club would be interested in him. One of the interesting conversations that we had is that he said what is happening now with Spurs is very similar to what was happening with Celtic at the time of appointing Ange. So, at that time, the Celtic fans had no idea who Ange was. They weren't very happy about the appointment. They were in disarray. at the running of their football club and the manager. Because I think before that they brought Neil Lennon back, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
He was pants. And anyway, so the interesting topic was that he said how quickly he managed to galvanize the support of the players and also of the supporters as well. And the other thing which I've been banging on about for weeks about Ange is that he managed to bring in some unbelievable talent from overseas that, no one was ever familiar with, who have been, instrumental in that treble win, they had. Now, I also understand, everyone's point of view that this appointment can seem underwhelming, that this appointment can seem like an easy choice. But I want everyone to cast their minds back to when we sacked Mauricio Pochettino, because we signed Jose Mourinho, a serial winner, to come into Tottenham Hotspur and win us a trophy. We then signed Antonio Conte after sacking Jose Mourinho to bring him in to, win us a trophy, to be able to show that these elite managers can win. We have tried the sure things, but what worked for us before was a little bit of an underdog. And the other thing I've been watching this week, if anyone hasn't seen it, I can't remember their name on Twitter, but there's some fella that loves Postecoglou. And he's just been sharing these clips from a documentary about him. And every time he talks to the players and every time I listen to what he says, it gets me more and more excited. So that's my take on it. It is what it is if he does come to Spurs. And I think, as Harry said, it's important that we all get behind him. But Wes, talk to me about your initial thoughts, because we did chat earlier on in the week about it.
Yeah, we did. And I feel like a little bit similar to Harry. By the way, you two on Twitter is a better love story than Twilight, what's been going on recently, by the way. Just going to throw that out there. The sort of to and throwing. I've just been there, sitting there with my popcorn. It's been brilliant. But
Love
yeah,
that.
in terms of Big Ange, yeah, I'm a bit on sort of with Harry that it feels really underwhelming, but only because of who has been linked to the job. As Harry mentioned, Poch, Nagelsmann, Enrique. I think people were just getting their heads around Arne Slot coming in, and then all of a sudden that kind of got pushed to the side and put in the bin. But it does feel slightly underwhelming in that respect. However, the times that I have watched Celtic under Big Ange over the past sort of couple of seasons, I've been really, really impressed. And I think, Celtic had a manager in Brendan Rodgers who pretty much transformed the way Celtic played and did everything up there. They went off a little bit with getting Neil Lennon back. But Big Ange sort of came in and almost took Celtic back to how they were under Brendan Rodgers in terms of that relentless nature. And, he's got this phrase that we don't stop and all of this kind of thing. And stuff like that. So yeah, it was quite refreshing. Obviously, I'd never heard of him before he rocked up at Celtic or anything like that. And I like him in interviews as well. I have to say, whenever he's spoken, he speaks really, really well. And what I like as well is he does throw the odd bit of shade in there every now and then, which I think as a fan, when it's for your club, you can almost envisage you can get behind it. But yeah, I think. Listen, Ange is going to be buzzing. It's probably the job of his life, and he's managed his country as well. But I think this is arguably the biggest job that he would have got. It's certainly the biggest test for him, given the nature of what he's walking into. With the squad, need wholesale changes. Whether he's going to be afforded the time to be able to do that is another question. I think Levy's almost, he's probably picking Postecoglou and Big Ange. Yeah, it's likely that he's going to be a cheaper option compared to a Nagelsmann or a Pochettino. But I think Levy has to get this one right. And if he doesn't get this one right in particular, fans are going to be even more hostile than what they are at the moment. And I think that was probably, and this was probably the time to say to Poch, come back, just to get us all on the same page again, because I think the fan base is so split. But listen, if and when Ange does sign on the dotted line, I'll back him. I'll give him a chance like I do with every manager. There's been managers that I've not necessarily wanted and given them a chance, sung their name and all of that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on, how he operates in the transfer market. I think the big thing for him is getting players out as opposed to getting them in, because I feel like we can't get players in until we sell. So I think for us, it's a case of sell before we buy, which is going to sound really frustrating for the majority of fans. But yeah, listen, if and when he's here, let's get behind him. Let's support him. It's not necessarily going to be his fault in terms of what he's been left to play with. I think that will definitely be on certain Mr. Levy. But yeah, I like the analogy of the underdog coming in and doing something. I think, speaking to somebody earlier who's also a Spurs fan and was sort of saying about Pochettino, when he came in a little bit unfancied, hadn't really done too much in terms of his managerial career, and we get him, and then all of a sudden he's transformed everything at the football club. And I think Ange has the capabilities to do it. Whether it's enough to keep some of the big name players, I don't know. But yeah, let's sort of get behind him and see where it's going to take us.
Yeah, 100%. Because whether people like or don't like Fabrizio Romano, usually he gets things quite right, whether that's secondhand information or not, or whatever you want to call it. But the latest information at 5:43 today was that new round of talks scheduled in the next 24 to 48 hours between Tottenham and the CAA agency in order to complete the agreement for Ange Postecoglou. I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't get done in the next 24 hours. I really wouldn't be surprised, because Postecoglou said all along that he wanted to get the cup final out of the way. It was an easy game yesterday. They weren't predicted to lose by, it would have been an upset of the season. Inverness, Caledonian and Thistle were in the league below Celtic, and Celtic just won the league by winning 32 out of 38 games. So they weren't expected to lose that. But, I respect the way, I agree with you, Wes, the way he presents himself and the way he is. I would say the way his humor comes across is very straight-faced, and, it's not, stand-up comedy type thing. But, I think there is a little bit of an edge to him. But what I am mostly impressed with is the kind of attitude that he has, that either you play his style of football or you don't. Whether, some of our players are going to buy into that, I would be excited to see whether he would drop certain players based on that. But then if you've got anything to go by listening to that knobhead Tim Sherwood, then, you could be convinced that Daniel Levy picks the team every week. So, it would be interesting for sure. It is the managerial spot of his career. It won't get better than this, I don't think. And what's even funnier is that Celtic have a pre-season friendly arranged with his old club, Yokohama Marinos, in about 2 months' time or a month's time. So that could be pretty funny if he's no longer managing there. But Harry, I want to talk to you about kind of how important it is to back the manager when he comes in, because we have seen a lot of this, when he first got spoken about by mainstream media about no to Ange, no to Postecoglou, whatever, it is. That whole hashtag was brought around, when we attempted to hire, a man who has been known for his sexism and everything else. That kind of thing should be left for the people who we, definitely don't want at this football club. To just because you're not happy with, the way that a manager is or his career path to date, shouldn't mean that you should do that, should it?
No, it shouldn't. And although I was never convinced by Ange, for example, at the start of the week, I forbid using that hashtag because it is pathetic, really. Why are fans writing off somebody before he's even been appointed? and he has transformed Celtic, and he has succeeded at Celtic. Whether it's a bigger level enough for your satisfactory, it's up to you. I don't think it's a massive thing, but one thing's for sure is he transformed Celtic. So I don't know why we're writing it off, right? We're in a situation right now where nothing can be worse. I honestly think it annoys me as well when fans say the standard is very, very high. We've got to win a trophy. Hang on, we haven't won a trophy since 2008. So that should be an expectation by now. We should be used to not winning. So for me, Ange comes in, no expectation really whatsoever, because we've just finished outside of Europe. Have a go. Your job of your life. Try and rebuild this team and get the best out of them, wherever they may be. We're going through that rebuild. Well, we should be going through that rebuild. So wherever he finishes, is what it is, but he deserves a chance, like everybody does, and we must give him time. And we can't start drawing these expectations. He's got to get top four. He's got to win a trophy. When elite managers have failed to do so, he's a humble guy. Wes, hits the nail on the head in terms of he's very good with the media, very down to earth. I think that'd be perfect here in England, because, not being funny, the media can be challenging at times, and the likes of Conte, Mourinho, they'd get rattled by the media. So I think someone like Ange would deal with that pressure of the Tottenham job very, very well. So I'm going to give him a chance. But the hashtag thing's stupid. It really is. It is. I got called out in the week for saying this. Can't remember the exact word I used, but I have to go back and have a look. But I got called out for basically saying, fans, I might have used privilege, I don't quite know, but kind of expecting privileged fans who think he's not good enough for our football club. The reality is we pretty much finished mid-table outside of Europe, and you think you try to pretend we're a top four club that we deserve Nangwasman, we deserve to keep Kane. Or some of the stuff I see is bonkers. I have to find the word that I used that I called out for, but he needs to be given a chance. The hashtag is just very, very childish. People clearly got nothing better to do, but give him a chance and we shall see.
Yeah, definitely. I'm currently scrolling through Twitter now, because that was going to be my next point, because I can't remember where I was on, but I was on a podcast and I said a very similar thing to you, H.
I can't remember what word I used.
You tweet far too much, but it is a very good point, and I will ask you about this, Wes, because you're a fan that spends a lot of money at Spurs, too much money, some might say. 2 bloody season tickets, man.
Yeah.
And where did we get this idea of that we should be pushing higher than where we are? Where did we ever get above our own station? At which point did we get to a point where we say we should be winning a trophy every season? We should be doing better than top four. Daniel Levy wanting top. This is a comment that I always see on Twitter. Daniel Levy saying he, getting top four every season is like winning a trophy or something along those lines. When did we ever get to that point? But because before Enoch came in, and people call me out for loving Enoch, but I have to say these points. Before Enoch came in, we were a team that finished 10th, 11th, 9th, 12th, season after season after season. And before Alan Sugar came in, the club nearly went out of complete business. Mm-hmm. And so, one season out of the last 8 or 9 to finish outside of a European football spot, to suddenly have that kind of, idea that this is where we deserve to be. Where did this come from?
The only MP that most Tottenham fans could ever trust. Because, and I always refer back to this point, Monday Night Football, Jamie Carragher summed it up perfectly when he said about Pochettino's time at Tottenham, and people will always label the whole trophy thing against him and against us, because I think now it's just an easy thing to do. But Pochettino, and Carragher said this, he said Pochettino made Spurs fans believe that we could win the biggest trophies in football. And then because we all believed it and we thought it could happen, we get to that Champions League final in 2019. And it's like, okay. And we look at Liverpool because we were neck and neck with them for so long. And we see what they've done in terms of, all right, they sold Coutinho, bought in Alisson and Van Dijk, and they won the Champions League the following year and all of that kind of stuff. But it was that case of, at that point, it was the stick or twist. Are we going to go for it, or are we going to just sit on our laurels and be like, well, this is quite nice, this is good, we'll I quite like this. Unfortunately for us, it was the latter in terms of not really doing anything after it, and it's just been one big mess ever since. But I think Poch, the job he did raised fans' expectations, because he made us qualifying for the Champions League and hitting top 4, like a Sunday stroll. And I was never, ever worried that we weren't going to finish in the top 4 under Poch. So we have this period of time where it's consistent. We're qualifying for the Champions League. Poch is doing a great job on the pitch. Players are improving, getting better. You look at the team that we had and you think, right, here we go. We're onto something here. And then slowly but surely it's just died off bit by bit by bit. So I think that's where the sense of entitlement has come from. And obviously there'll be a lot of fans who remember us as a more successful cup team in, some of the 90s and the 80s and 70s and things like that. But that's a long time ago now.
Yeah, my God, City were playing League 2 at that point.
Exactly. And look at them now. They're on the course for the treble. So, I think for the older fan base, it's that sense of, well, we used to win things. Why on earth are we not doing it now? And then for the slightly younger ones, it's like, well, we've had this amazing team and not done anything with it. Why haven't we done anything? Why can't we get over the line? We deserve. So I think that's kind of where the fan base is at. And then you get the people that are stuck in the middle and a bit of a crossover, where it's like, okay, we've picked up the odd League Cup along the way, but that's about it. I think the sense of entitlement has come from the fact that we were so close, and it's like, right, now we need a trophy to cement ourselves as, one of those big hitters within the league. Whereas I think certain people are a little bit more realistic in terms of, right, this is where we actually are. But like I say, I think Carragher summed it up perfectly by saying about Poch when he made us believe we could win the big trophies, as opposed to us actually feeling like we could as fans.
Yeah, no, I get that. Where do you sit at the moment, Wes? Quickly, you don't have to go into a big one. Where do you sit in terms of leaving the board? Because I look at myself, right, and everyone knows where I stand. Obviously, I'm quite a lot older than Harry. I understand where Harry's coming from, and I'm not saying it's because you're young, but you have only ever seen reasonably good times at Spurs. But where do you sit on it?
Listen, I, as a fan that likes to look at I wouldn't say the bigger picture, but likes to get a rounded view on things, I was, up until fairly recently, I was, a bit of, I wouldn't say an ENIC fan, but I could understand the work and the business that they did. And I think the majority of it was fairly positive. This comment, or the second comment here, is the big one for me. We were told that the stadium would be a game changer and we would be able to compete with Europe's elite. We have absolutely not done that.
People are forgetting the fact that this is a very expensive stadium to pay off.
Granted,
yeah, but Luke, we're doing it over time.
I was fortunate enough to speak with the chief architect for the stadium once upon a time. You can pick that name up off the floor as well whilst we're there. But he was speaking to me and my dad, and we were led to believe, whether this is true or not, I don't know, but the budget for because we've had a new training ground, a new stadium as well, all within the space of a decade. Not many clubs actually do that, but we were led to believe that the training ground budget was separate to the new stadium budget, and that was separate to the budget for the playing staff, if you like. But I think in recent times, and now I'm just getting a bit bored and fed up, and I think my biggest thing, and I think I said this on Harry's show the other day, was that we now need football people in charge of the football operations, because we can no longer go on with Daniel Levy pulling strings. You look at clubs who have overtaken us, if you like, this year, Newcastle and Brighton in particular. They've got football people in doing the football, especially at Newcastle, because I don't even think the actual owner knows where Newcastle is or has ever set foot in St James's.
I'm sure His Highness of Saudi Arabia has no idea where.
Exactly. So they own a football club, but they have no idea where it is. So what they've done is they've gone, right, this is a football club that we own. What do we need? Right, well, we need somebody who's well connected within football to head up our operation. Well, Ben Ashworth. There you go. Football person doing the football things. And
so surely does Scott Munn, sorry to jump in, does Scott Munn not do that now then? Or are you like Harry, where you believe he's
Levy's right-hand man? It feels like Scott Munn is Levy's right-hand man, so he's going to answer to Levy. Whereas it feels like at other clubs, you look at City, they've got Tiki Bugaristin, and it's like, if they need anything from the owners, they send them an email or a text. Other than that, crack on and do what you got to do. But at Tottenham, Levy will always have the final say, and it's getting to a point now where you are like, please just tell whoever's in charge, whether it's Scott Munn, Paratici, whoever it is, there's your budget, work within it. If you need me, phone me, email me. That is literally all he's got to do now, because like I say,
Scott Munn and Paratici's job roles are completely different.
Sorry, what was that?
Scott Munn and Paratici's job roles aren't the same. They are. Paratici was brought in as a director of football type role. This is a higher role. If that's what we're led to believe, we can all disagree. I understand Harry will disagree in a minute, but until that is proven,
you can't prove your point either.
Huh?
You can't prove that. We've got a different job. They've got a different job title. We don't know if it's going to be a smokescreen or not.
But it's obvious, is it not? Because he's head of footballing operations. Then there'll be a director of football, and then there'll be a manager.
Well, there's been a while without a sporting director. There hasn't been appointed yet. I don't know what's taking so long. Liverpool can do it in 4 days. Done. Boom. And listen, we've fallen so far behind. You give these numbers. Before ENIC, we finished 9th, 10th, 11th, whatever you said. That's basically what we're in now. And we haven't even got the trophies. So
this is one season where we finished outside of Europe.
Should we come back to this in 3 years' time? We're in the relegation battle and there's no Kane. So I seriously don't think we're that far away.
Jesus Christ.
I don't think we're that far away.
Sorry, Wes. So right, simple question. Are you in or out? Or are you neutral?
Out at this point. I've had enough. Completely had enough, to the point where I'm not one of these that goes, well, how can we have all of these managers and keep churning through them, and they've won everywhere else but not Tottenham? Because I know that they probably knew what they were getting in for and what they let themselves in for at Tottenham, with Daniel Levy and the way he operates. But then at the same time, why on earth is he bringing somebody in like a Mourinho, who he knows is going to want certain things and knows he can't give it to him? It's just absolutely pointless. It's pointless. I know we had COVID and things like that, but why are you bringing in Mourinho to get a last squeeze out of a squad that was underperforming in the first place? It doesn't really do me anything. It doesn't.
Yeah, Wes, what I find funny is people use COVID as an excuse, like we're the only club that suffered from COVID.
No, but
forgetting all the other clubs.
Yeah, but I think obviously with us, it was not long the stadium had opened, and
it's true.
You look at finances coming into the club, everything like that, and we know Mourinho likes to spend a few quid, likes the finished article, which is usually going to cost a few quid as well. So yeah, I think he wasn't really able to operate in the same way he would have had it been, with full capacity in the ground and things like that. But yeah, it just baffles me that Levy wants to go from, and I look at the Liverpool game, and I looked after it, and you look at the managers that we've gone through, and it's almost like what Everton have done in the last five years or so. We've gone flitted from one style of manager to the other with the same set of players. It doesn't work. So Levy's got to take a lot of accountability, and in this situation here, and I think it's, like I say, it's time for, if he's not going to step aside, he's got to get the right football people in. If he is going to step aside, I think there'll be a lot of Spurs fans that will be happy. Having said that, I know what Luke's going to turn around and say and be like, be careful what you wish for, because, you get some owners that aren't always with the club's best interests at heart. But I think, it's one of those where, like I say, he's either got to get the right football people in or give it to potentially somebody else.
But Luke, you don't like Conte, right?
Oh no, I can't stand
Who
it.
appointed him?
Yeah, obviously, like Daniel Levy appointed him, but this is kind of my point. Going back to the last month, which I've been banging on about, that Tottenham should sign Ange Postecoglou, and I'll tell you all now, because I should have put a hell of a lot of money on it back then, because he was about 30 or 40 to 1. Not that I'm a gambling man, but I was confident it was going to happen, and I will go into details in a minute. But I don't disagree that there have been bad decisions made by ENIC and Levy. And for those that are new to the channel, like, there is a lot of comments in here. I will get to some of them. Some of them are nonsense, so I'm not reading them out. But I do appreciate you all coming in. Just make sure you are subscribing to the channel and catching all of our episodes as well. But I will happily sit here and say that I am still an ENIC neutral. Right? That's this thing that I've now coined and I'm going to use as my own, because I can see where this club has gone, over the last 10 to 12 years, which is it. If you looked at a graph in Spurs standings in the league, it would go up. Now, let's not forget, before 2008, 2008 that we last won a trophy. So, it was a long time ago, right?
Yeah, 2008.
Before that, when did we win the last trophy?
99.
Okay, and then before that, like, the thing is, these things don't come around like every year. These things don't come around every 5 minutes. This is where this privilege and entitlement comes from. Like, I can see where we have gone, and I can see where we can go. Do I believe that Tottenham Hotspur can win a Champions League and a Premier League in the next 20 years under ENIC and Levy? No, I don't. But not many clubs do, and not many clubs will. And do you know who the clubs will be? It'll be Man City and it'll be Newcastle. And it'll be whoever else gets bought out by an oil state, and we can talk about who owns Newcastle.
All clubs that are run by footballing people, Luke.
But at the end of the day, you can talk about who owns Newcastle and you can say it's whoever. The people that own that company are the, Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and whoever else is involved in this. To me, that is the last thing I would ever want to see for my football club. Does that mean that I have no ambition? You can say whatever you like. But there is no chance that I would give up on any moral value for a trophy of a stupid game with a ball.
Yeah, but Luke, can I just jump into that?
Let's go Wes first.
Yeah, go on.
The thing that gets me is, and I completely understand where you're coming from, Luke, because I was of a similar opinion whereby, ENIC have done a lot. They have, progressed us. We're now a global brand and all of that, as opposed to a football club. But the thing is, Daniel Levy has come out and said, I want to be successful and I want to win trophies, right? We were in a League Cup final with a manager who has been there, seen it, done it, got the T-shirt so many times, and he sacks him 6 days before a cup final. You cannot say that man is serious about winning a trophy when and put it this way, if you had a one-off game in a final and you could handpick any manager from world football, past or present, Jose Mourinho is within your top 3 minimum to get you over the line. That was the bit that also rubbed me up the wrong way, because I'm there going, well, hold on a minute. You want to win trophies. You've brought in somebody that wins trophies and you sack him 6 days before a cup final, all because you wanted Champions League football over winning a League Cup. Like, at this point, Spurs fans don't care, which is why I would like what trophy we get, which is why I wasn't too fussed if we'd have got Conference League, because I thought it's a cup and a trophy that we could actually go for and take seriously. But this is where I think Levy kind of says one thing and acts in the complete opposite way. So I think that's another reason why, it's rubbing a lot of people up the wrong way.
I've got, whoever you are, inspirational sports quotes. This is a very interesting one. I've been reading these as they come in. Leicester are not owned by an oil state. They won the league. What do you say to that? Well, I say to
and
them,
Community Shield.
look at where they are now. Right?
Okay, but look, come back to this in 3
Harry,
years' time.
Wait.
We'll be in the Championship and they'll be in the Premier League, and you'll be going, "Oh, I never liked the owners in the first place."
Wait. So,
Promise you, good market.
So, look, Leicester won the Premier League and they've just been relegated to the Championship. Okay, I'll run you
For
through
now.
that. So they, you can talk about the death of the father of, the original owner of Leicester, and his son's now looking after, etc., etc. Unfortunately, this is what happens to a football club that isn't run correctly. Okay, and I would rather see my club run correctly than win a Premier League and end up in the Championship. Now, I'm interested to hear both of your thoughts on this. Would you rather not win a Premier League and not be relegated, or win a Premier League but you have to be relegated afterwards? Harry. So
you're not going to like my answer because I'm going to do what I specialise in and slightly dodge the question. But what I will say right now is that football people need to be in charge of their football decisions. As at Tottenham, we've seen this year with Brighton, with Brentford, they're fantastic models, which, believe it or not, Tottenham are trying to copy, and that's how embarrassing it is. We're talking about a club in Brentford that win the Championship less than 3 years ago, and a club in Brighton who also not that long ago were in the Championship. But that's how far behind we are as a club. But regardless of that, we need football people making football decisions. This Scott Munn thing, it's a bit like the fan advisory board. It's the second time it's been launched. It will never happen. It's all, it looks good, but really, I can't see it happening. If it's going to happen, it's never going to be as good as promised. Leicester situation. Yeah, they're in the Championship now, but I fully expect them to come straight back up next year. The only reason they've gone down, Luke, is because of financial fair play, and that affects smaller clubs. If that financial fair play wasn't in, Leicester would be, I'm serious, I mean this, would probably be in Europe this season because they had the money to spend it, but they couldn't because of financial fair play, and that is where, another discussion for another day, but financial fair play, it is harsh on those small teams. Like Leicester have suffered from it this year. I'd love the league, but, are we heading towards Everton's level and potentially being in the Championship and fighting for relegation battles? If we lose Kane, statistics say yes. they do. We're not going to bring in a replacement for Kane. People say to me, we won't play with 10 men, we're bringing a replacement in for Kane. The replacement will be Richarlison, who's on the pitch most of the time anyway. Trust me, without Harry Kane, we'd be 17th this season. Luke, I'm going to say it. I'm going to answer your question. I'd rather win a Premier League and be in the Championship because this club it's well run on the business side of things. But as a football club, it's the lowest of lowest. It's really, really low standard and not well run in that regard. You're shaking the head. But for a club that will, not being funny, but if these owners are in charge for another 22 years, we'll be in the Championship. I'd love a Premier League. We're not going to get it. But, so that's the reality. But we Celtic, Ange, wins the treble. The only difference is he won't win the treble at Tottenham. He might get three victories in a row at the start before he gets sacked by Christmas, and that will be his mini treble at Tottenham. But Luke, you don't like these managers. You've got to come back to who appointed them.
Fair enough. Wes, would you take a Premier League and to be relegated?
Well, I'm now wondering what the definition of well run is, if I'm honest. Is it being in
people
profit?
Making football decisions?
Is it being in profit every year? Or is it giving Eric Dyer another 3-year contract? Because if there is any football club that is run properly, you do not give Eric Dyer at his age, at his big age, given what he has produced.
Then that's paper talk, isn't it?
You do not give him a 3-year contract.
Okay, we'll come back
to
to that.
Stockpile players in the way that we have. I don't think. Listen, I think commercially we are a well-run football club, but put it this way, if there's in any other business, if there's a failing product, that product does not sell. Yet football is completely different. We've had a failing product for 4 or 5 years, and fans still turn up every week. We still pay our money, and things like that. So, I think but to answer your question, would I rather a Premier League and get relegated? Do you know what? I probably would, because I can say I've seen my team win the Premier League, and not many fans and not many people get to say that they've seen their team winning a league. But yeah, I've seen my team in a Champions League final, which I never thought would happen. And again, I can sit here and say that I was in Madrid on that night. But yeah, to see your team win something like, there's been a lot of people that have been starved of success. And you look at the journey Leicester have been on. I know this year hasn't been great. Their recruitment for the first time in a long time has been poor. I think Brendan Rodgers was speaking about Tete, saying he was the winger that he's wanted for 18 months, 2 years. So that in itself speaks volumes. Obviously, they couldn't replace Kasper Schmeichel, who was a big, big loss for them. Danny Ward is horrendous anyway. I think that Wout Faes, whoever he is like Colaccini, again, horrendous. So, if he was any good, they wouldn't have bought Harry Souttar for 15 million, put it that way. So, yeah, I just think Leicester have just been caught out this year. And again, you look at potentially a club like Leeds, who haven't been exactly well run either. But I don't think we are as well run football side and football operations as we are commercially, in terms of like, how on earth have we attracted Beyonce to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, by the way? How on earth is she driving down Tottenham High Road? Like, do you know what I mean? She's going to get an absolute culture shock when she's seen that. So look, listen, like I say, ENIC have done a lot of good in terms of commercially. Football wise, has been very, very up and down in their 22 years existence.
But if you look at the graph, wait there 1 sec. But if you look at the graph, in Spurs, so let's look at this as a business really easily, right? Because I know you have a business, Wes, right?
Yeah.
So if we look at Leicester's trajectory, the business skyrocketed and now it's plummeted. The problem with it is how it gets back up to anywhere near where it was before, right?
Yeah.
When you've got, let's use a business example, right? Lack of money, lack of revenue, lack of things that are coming in. If you look at Tottenham Hotspur since ENIC have come in, and, I will move on from this in a minute because, my God, I'm sick of talking about it every week. But look at that trajectory, and it is very much like this, okay? Now we have seen a slight dip, but it's no way near like it could be and where it is for some teams, right? Just one season finishing 8th in the Premier League. My God, you lot need to just cheer up. Not you in particular, but everybody.
Come back to that at 2030 when it's been every season in a row that we finished outside of Europe. Turn into a club like Everton, lose Kane. We come back to this, shall we?
It won't be because I guarantee you at that point it would sell, and I guarantee you that. If that's the way the business started running, they would sell because they wouldn't be able to do anymore.
But then also, most businesses, when they are in a position of strength, they strengthen.
Agreed.
And you look at Liverpool again as a prime example because we were literally neck and neck with them. They went Champions League final. All right, they sold Coutinho, bought in Van Dijk. Their next step was to buy a goalkeeper. They then have conquered and won the lot. Right? What have we done since 20? We've just gone completely the other way. We didn't strengthen and we didn't add from that position of strength that we were in. I think everybody was seeing where we were going. Like, I remember after Madrid, I was getting so many Liverpool fans messaging me saying, "Don't worry, you're on the right path. This was us a year ago. Yeah. You're onto something good. You've got a great manager. You will be back." And in my head, I'm going, this is probably as good as it's going to get. At that time, obviously, you'd love to be proven wrong, but at the minute, it is as good as it's got for Tottenham. And it was like, right, where was the ambition at that specific point to listen to our best manager in a generation and just give him the tools that he needed to succeed? Where was that level of ambition?
Two players. You only needed two-sided. That's the thing. But, with Liverpool, like you say, Wes, they got to that Champions League final for the first time under Klopp where they lost around Madrid. Yeah. What did they do? They looked at it, we're a little bit away, and they go back and invest. Like you said, exactly the same with me, Wes, being contacted from Liverpool fans, social media, don't worry, you'll be back next year. We've experienced this. You'll get the backing, but we don't. And that is why Daniel Levy cannot continue as chairman, because he cannot see his ambition. It simply is that ambition. But the last thing I will say to you, Luke, with Leicester, if you'd asked Leicester fans 8 years ago when they were in Championship, they'd win the Premier League, win the FA Cup, win the Community Shield, and in 2023 would go down, not only would they laugh, they'd be jumping up and down. And I think it's exactly the same. But what I do agree with you, Luke, is when you say that fans are entitled. I completely agree with that. In terms, I get called at that a lot. I said that, for example, the entitlement comes under that hashtag, no to Ange, where fans think we're better than him. He's just won the treble. We haven't won a trophy since 2008, but we're better than him. That is entitlement. I do agree with that part of it. The fans can be entitled. So I do share that with you, yes.
Right, let's move on from this. There is quite a lot of people watching today, so I will remind you all, we do appreciate your support. We have hit over 700 subscribers during this show, so I want to thank you all for that. Keep going. And early next week, there will be a competition on our Twitter page, which is @ParkLanePod, to win something special. So I haven't figured out what it is yet, but I will. So and it's coming out of my pocket. So if you don't like me, then go and follow us on Twitter, and you can help spend my money. Why not?
It'd be a mug with Levy's face on it, Levy neutral.
Yeah, exactly. No, Park Lane Podcast mug. That's all you get in your cheap gets. Anyway, let's move on to the news that came out today about Harry Kane. Actually, do you know what? Before we do that, everyone, I want a prediction from you all and a prediction from everyone in the comments. Okay, where do Spurs finish next season under Big Ange?
Wow.
So, Wes, I will come to you first.
Jeez. Wow. Where do we finish? Give me 7th now. Okay. I'll
7th
take it
now. Wow.
I'll take
Harry.
it.
Don't speak to 10 minutes.
I'm going to be honest. I'm all for giving him a chance. I think we're finishing 11th.
Wow.
Christ,
I seriously do. I think it's only downhill. From now to 2030, we're in a very similar situation with Everton. With in terms of stadium, in terms of recruitment, in terms of poor decisions being made. But here's the definition of a true. Wow. Well, I'll say no more about that. But no, but I've completely lost my train of thought now. Yeah, I think we're finished 11th. At least we didn't get relegated. And we're sure we'll get onto the Harry Kane thing. That's a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier. And you'll love to hear it, Luke. Kane's been let down by the club and Daniel Levy. Pochettino asked for that rebuild in 2019 round. Harry Kane didn't get it. He's paying the price for it now. We didn't rebuild when needed in 2019, and we're going to do it now. We have Levy, who knows nothing about football. The best compliment he can give a player in Harry Winks is he runs around a lot. That's someone who does not know football. I love going back to that, by the way. We're in a huge state. We do not finish in Europe next season. That is. If I see someone say,
my prediction.
Hey,
you wait till you hear my prediction.
League thinks we're winning the
treble. You're going to say third. You're going to say third.
What?
You're going to say
third.
I'm not going to
say third. I'm not a bloody maniac. I do want to say though.
You say we're going to win every game, and we never do.
I do want to thank everyone in the comments because I do appreciate you all. Sometimes I will take the piss, but I do appreciate everything that you have to say. You'll get to know that by now. But and also welcome to Johnny, who is an Arsenal fan. So if anyone wants to rip the piss out of him, he's in the comments. So do that now.
What happened, Johnny? Finished second in a 1-1 race.
Unfortunately not, because if I was, I would be a very, very rich man. Put it that way, and I'm not. So I reckon Spurs finish 5th. Okay. Now, I put a bold statement out when Antonio Conte was named as Tottenham Hotspur manager. And I said Spurs will finish 3rd and win a trophy this season. Antonio Conte was trash. And I can't say any more than that. That's quite optimistic, to be fair, from what you've been saying today. 8th or 9th.
Conte won everywhere else.
But he hasn't won everywhere else. I'll tell you that.
Pretty much.
So, yeah, but he hasn't won everywhere. But anyway, so I think we'll finish 5th. I think that we will see. What I think most important about this season is what we're going to see is we're going to see fast attacking, high pressing football, and I guarantee you all that a lot of fans' minds will change on where they stand based on that factor alone. I think the life has been sucked out of us the last few years from some of these managers, and all I want from all of our fan base is to come back together. And if you don't agree with what someone says, write it nicely like everyone has been doing today. And let's take the mick out of each other. But let's all remember, we all support the same team. So let's all push towards that. Anyway, Big news coming out that Real Madrid have let go Karim Benzema. And now they've set their eyes on our man, Harry Kane. Now, I don't disagree with you, Harry. that
Wow.
I know there is a time where I don't agree with you. That this could be worrying for Spurs if he does leave. I don't believe in a million trillion lifetimes that we are left with Richarlison to play up front. I guarantee you.
What do you think we're going to sign Haaland?
No. But it could be worrying if that happens. My personal thoughts are that he does not go anywhere this summer. And it's not on the basis that it's slightly that he doesn't want to. So I'll get my ramblings out the way first, because obviously no one cares what I say. But I believe that he's just about to have another child, to uproot his entire family. Well, they have now 4 kids at that point, to go and live in Madrid.
Yeah.
Could be a big ask right now for him. The other part of that makes me very skeptical is the treatment of Gareth Bale at Real Madrid, and whether he is familiar with that and has spoken to Bale. Obviously, with the fact that Gareth came back on loan at his time under Mourinho's time at Spurs, I would be doubtful if he came in. The other part of that is I'm not paid by ENIC, but I believe that Daniel Levy will do whatever he possibly can to believe that he could convince Kane to stay at Spurs. I reckon if he doubled Kane's wages tomorrow, Kane would stay. Yeah, but what do you pay? What do you pay the best players in the world? You pay them big money. Yeah, I believe he'd gamble on that, and if I was Daniel Levy, I would gamble on that as well. The fact that if he can negotiate, as you said, Wes, Beyonce to play at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I'm sure he can convince H to stay a bit longer. And it's really what does he want? There's other reports coming out today saying that he would rather stay in the Premier League and beat Alan Shearer's goal record. It is interesting to know, because he could win a trophy, and people are forgetting this. He could very easily win a trophy with England. And would that be enough for him? And also break the Premier League record? Harry's shaking his head, and I'm a little bit confused why. But I will go straight to you, Wes, first, because I like watching Harry suffer. What do you... People take the piss out of me, don't they? Would I take Paul Higginbottom as manager?
He probably would.
Winning shit, is he? Look, I'm all up for a big Aussie guy coming to Tottenham Hotspur. Do not even talk to me about anybody else. If this falls through, I'm cancelling this entire podcast. Anyway, Wes, what do you think about Harry Kane?
Yeah, I was of the opinion that he's staying and going absolutely nowhere. This one is now, it's one of those where, listen, it's Real Madrid, and it's very rare a player says no to Real Madrid. So this one now I'm now starting to get, it's a bit of squeaky bum time for me, in the sense that Harry Kane has 1 year left on his contract. I think I did see somebody say that Kane signs a 5-year contract, goes on loan to Real Madrid for a year, wins the lot there, comes back and breaks Shearer's record, which I thought was quite funny. Yeah, this will be the one, I think. I'm not too fussed about domestically, or him going to United. I can't see that. Can't see him going Bayern Munich. But the one that when they come calling, you very rarely say no to is Real Madrid. So yeah, I think this is the one where I'm now going, and the worst bit for us is, I think somebody mentioned it earlier in the comments, was that we'd need about 3 players just to replace him, because he's just an unbelievable footballer. Some of the things that he does with the football is just outrageous. But yeah, I would love to think that he stays. I don't think Levy doubles his wages and whacks him on 400 grand a week, mind, because then that's the wage structure completely blown. But I would argue a nice financial package, if you like, perhaps a little bit more than what he's on currently, which I believe is 200 grand a week. And yeah, listen, we as a football club need to do everything we can to keep Harry Kane, because we can't replace him. He is, what Messi was at the time to Barcelona, what Ronaldo was to Real Madrid. He's our superstar. And yeah, it's going to take a hell of a lot for us to even do that. And bearing in mind the last time we had a massive war chest, we completely spunked it up the walls. So yeah, like I say, I think we've got to do everything we can to convince him to stay. But listen, if he goes Real Madrid, I shake him by the hand and say, fair play to you, because you have given absolutely everything in a Spurs shirt. You've produced some unbelievable moments, some fantastic goals, and things like that. But yeah, this is the one now where I'm starting to get a bit twitchy, I have to say.
Mate, give me Nasser Chadley and Vad Kurikes any day of the week.
Christ.
H, talk to me about Harry Kane. Do you reckon... What do you reckon happens with him? Because, one thing that we should not forget about is at some point in our lives, we have to do without Harry Kane. He's not going to be with us forever.
Yeah, we do all right. Hopefully the championship without him, Luke. But no. All jokes aside, what worries me is the amount of clubs that need number 9. Real Madrid's the obvious one, because has a player ever turned down Real Madrid? If so, there hasn't been many. So that worries me, because he goes to Real Madrid and he knows, boom, instant success, boom, first team football, lovely high wage, Madrid. There's so many things why he would go to Real Madrid. And also clubs that need a number 9. Man United worry me. Of course, they're not going to sign him permanently. They're going to need a number 9. You can't rely on Martial. He's injury prone. I don't necessarily think he'd go to Man United because, like you said, he's got a new set of family. He's got that new baby. Will he want to move out to Manchester? But focusing on the football side, Man United has to be a threat. People aren't going to like to hear this, but Chelsea worries me, because Pochettino going there, the relationship they had. Chelsea need a number 9. Will they sign Lukaku or not? Will they want him? That's a big question. That's a possibility, because he might not even have to move. We're talking about a settled family, working with his old coach. Chelsea does worry me. Liverpool, will they need a number 9? Debatable. But actually, what's starting to worry me day by day is Newcastle, because you've got Wilson, who's in and out of the team, and Isak, who's injury prone. And they've got the money to. I'm sure they'd love a strike partnership with Isak and Kane. Kane, like Shearer did, break the record at Newcastle. But for me, Kane stays because of that family situation and not wanting to move, because he's a family guy. I don't think the wage at Tottenham would change anything. And just the way he said goodbye in that final home game against Brentford when I was there, and that final away game against Leeds, he wasn't emotional like some players we've seen, like West Ham's Declan, right? We've seen loads of players, last weekend who were emotional. Kane was emotional last year because I don't think he knew if he was going to play another game in his first shirt. So for me, I don't expect him to sign a big contract. I expect him to see out his contract and go from there. It's a big question, but ultimately, he has been failed. I know I keep saying it, but that rebuild was needed under him in 2019, and he wasn't given. And we're talking about a player here who, for me, is almost like a once-in-a-lifetime player. We're very, very lucky to have him at Tottenham, right? Because people go on about the cities like Haaland, for example. But Haaland's just a shadow of Kane in terms of his all-round game. Kane has it all. He's the all-round package. He's fantastic. People say Real Madrid won't go for Kane because of the age. I don't think they care, because of the all-round player he is, and he gets them instant success. But for me, Kane stays. But I'm not one of these fans that's going to go, oh, Kane should stay because we're a top 4 club, top 6 club. Because that comes back to entitlement. If he wants to leave and win a trophy, fair play to him. I wish him all the best. And he's been a loyal servant. But that's a worry. I don't think he leaves.
Okay. I want to shout out to a couple of people in the comments. So there are a few Celtic fans in the comments. So thank you very, very much for joining. There's a few of you watching now. So again, I've said this all day, but I'm pushing the subs today. I never usually do. Make sure you just hit that sub and also click like on the video as well, and keep the comments coming in. We do appreciate your support. I want to kind of end very quickly talking about Ange again. I'm loving Ange, by the way. This is never going away. Hope he doesn't let me down. Obviously,
you'll be crying by Christmas.
Yeah. One of the things that I was impressed with, Wes, is a couple of things. So, again, I want you to kind of like overview it as best you can without going on for too long. But one of the things that I read about him was his, you've seen some really good signings from obviously his time in Japan. He's very familiar with the market out there and the players that are out there. We can all turn our nose up at such players and want, the top quality, the Benzema's, the Ramoses, the Messis of the world, to come into Spurs. But there is nothing wrong with handpicking from abroad. And, there was a time in which he really tried to push for Mitoma to come to Celtic, and they just couldn't afford it, for the wages, from what I can see. The other thing I want you to discuss real quick is the fact that he plays with 2 number 8s and how high he does like to attack. And as a football coach, what would we kind of expect to see from that, if you can?
Yeah, well, I was obviously I was coaching earlier today. Had a couple of defenders that I was working with, and I said to them that there could possibly be a trend, because what we've seen this season, from the teams that have finished in the top 2, setting up in a 3-2-5 style formation, especially with the ball. So you would have seen City have had players like Rico Lewis. Obviously, John Stones done it and was like prime Busquets yesterday, by the way. So there might be this now new trend of actually a defender potentially just stepping into midfield and being comfortable to play in there. But yeah, I think Ange has this sort of 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 kind of way of playing, which is really, really good. He likes to get it forward quick. I think we've all seen the video where he's absolutely screaming at one of his players to not pass it back. But yeah, it's quite interesting. Like sometimes in the big games, you'll see him go with, like you say, the sort of 2 8s or the 2 10s, and you're there going bold. But I think he's got the security of Callum McGregor in there, who is so versatile and can almost play those 3 different types of midfield roles. He can sit and dictate, he can be box to box, and he can play further forward. So I'm not saying we're signing Callum McGregor, but it will be interesting to see, who would fit into his playing style and his game model. A lot of coaches now speak about their game model and who fits in where in terms of their characteristics. I think we've got a lot of samey type of midfielders in terms of like Skip, Basuma, Højbjerg. They're all very samey. They like to sit in front of the back 4 and get the ball off of them and try and, dictate, play as much as they can. But listen, if he can, I think he's obviously got to spend a bit and get an attacking type of midfielder in, or whether he reinvigorates Tongi and Ndombele, who knows. But yeah, it's quite interesting. I think what most modern day coaches want is to occupy the space across the pitch, which is thanks to Pep. We used to have 3 lanes when we coached. So we have the left side, the central, and the right side. Because of Pep now we have 5. So he talks about half spaces a lot. And that's where De Bruyne, David Silva, Foden, Bernardo Silva, Alvarez this season in particular. It's those types of positions that they like to take up. You look at Arsenal, it's Odegaard, and things like that. So yeah, it's be interesting to see if he wants to occupy all of those lanes or just make sure that we've got a solid structure at the back with the box, which I know a lot of modern day coaches and managers like. They like the box, so they have the 2 centre backs, the 2 sort of holding midfielders in front of them, and then they compensate, if you like, for the fullbacks getting up and down the pitch. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think he's got good flexibility at the top end of the pitch, especially at Celtic with the likes of Jota, Abada, and Kyogo. They were a fairly sort of fluid front 3, and I mean Jota up there, the fans absolutely love him. And bearing in mind he doesn't even start every week, but fans just absolutely love him. So yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how we set up tactically next year and how he applies that ideology, especially in big games away from home, because that is where we have struggled massively in the last couple of seasons, away from home in the big games. I know we dropped an absolute masterclass away at City last season. I was there and it was brilliant. But other than that, I'm now struggling in the last couple of seasons to think of a time where we've gone and competed. I think I think Liverpool last year was close. Liverpool this year was fairly close, but it was almost like a throwback to Poch's time where we would go and really go toe to toe with the big guns. So it'll be interesting to see, like I say, how we set up and how we approach those big games.
Yeah, no, it is going to be interesting to see, whether this guy can do it or not, at the highest level. And I've been saying this to shout out to Harry there. Cheers for putting that on, Harry. 700 subs. We do appreciate you all. But there's a hell of a lot more people in this in the comment section. So let's keep clicking that sub button, people. It's whether he can get a tune out of these players at the very highest level. Let's not get anything wrong. And, as I said, my next door neighbour is Celtic fans. I'm not going to start here and start slagging off Scottish football in any way, shape or form, right? But, this is another level. This is another level from Japanese football. This is another level from the Australian national team. But if he can get it right, he could get it really right. And that's the big question is, can his style of football, with some of the players that we have, because let's not mistake them, we will not, we will not be signing 10 players to be able to, transform this team. Can he manage these teams? And what is going to be more interesting is, are we going to see certain players be ousted out of this club and not even on the bench? And are we going to see, players stepping up and saying, do you know what? I want to play this style of football and I want to play attacking football. And, because the likes of Kulusevski, Son, Kane, even to some degree, I believe Richarlison, I believe I've got this thing about Ndombele. I believe there is a time for him and it could be now in this role. Whether it will be, it's up to them now. It's up to the players and it's up to them whether they can be motivated. If this guy cannot motivate these players and these players cannot be motivated by him, let's not forget, we can't talk anymore about Scottish football being pants, right? Cannot talk about Japanese football being pants. Cannot talk about Australia being a terrible footballing side, right? This guy has won at every level that he has played at. Okay.
So what's he doing at Spurs then? Because we've had managers that have done the same thing. We've literally had managers that have done the same thing and all failed.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, I'll read this comment. He said, "I'll like and sub when you go Enoch out." Do you know what? I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll stay on for another couple of minutes. If you subscribe, I'll say Enoch out. How about that? So anyway, Harry, you got anything more to say about Big Ange? I can see you loving him. I can see you're coming round to him.
I can't say that, but no, but it's exciting, the prospect of going back to enjoying watching our club again. It's exciting because, like you say, I think you hit the nail on the head. Now it's on the players. These players have to step up and show what they're worth, because we're going for a time at Tottenham where players this is one thing Ryan Mason's spot on about. Players are fighting for their futures. You've got lots of players who probably shouldn't be at this high level, and lots of people got to prove themselves, and so you got people in and out of the team. I'm excited, like you say, and we're talking about a man who has bags of experience in loads of different countries as well, and how the philosophy works. And the benefit of not getting Europe as well with him is it gives him time to focus on the league, to work with the players in the week, to love it. To rebuild almost. So that there's no, because if we're in Europe, it's different. This is that pressure of him in that European stage. So I think without him, that will massively benefit him. But I'm willing to give him a chance. The hashtag shouldn't come in. The only thing that worries me slightly is similar to the Nuno situation with Spurs and the Potter situation with Chelsea. But it's different at the same time, where they've gone for that massive step up to what we call the job of their life. But at the same time, I'm not saying that it was Potter's fault he failed at Chelsea, because look what Lampard done with Chelsea. Pochettino is going to have to do a lot to get it working, because look, he's got to work with Todd Bowley. We're talking about a guy who doesn't understand football, even less than Levy does, which is unbelievable. But hey ho. But no, he needs time, and fans can't judge this before he's appointed. So people say, am I happy with this? It wouldn't be my choice of appointment, but of course I'm going to get behind it. And he doesn't. We can't judge him on 2 games because look at Erik ten Hag with Man United. They lost their first 3 games. There was actually, although it was joking talk, there was talk of whether they could actually get relegated. I remember after 3 games, they got thumped by Brentford. That they sat bottom of the league. It was only a joke, but do you know what I mean? I know what we're like with Spurs. Daniel Levy and the fans both fall under that category, where it's so quick to judge. But he needs time. I hope it works. I really hope it works. And I want to see it work.
Love it, Harry. That's the most positive thing I have ever heard you say.
But it won't.
Quick shout out to Harry Kane, number 10. He said, "Lol, you are cheap. Anything for a sub, or mate, you should see what I do for a £5." So anyway, look, the people watching this keeps going up and up and up. But what I want to do is I want you all to come back next week, Sunday, 7:00, where we're going to do an end of season review. And what I will do is I will open up the channel to a phone in. So if you are interested in coming on and having your say about whatever that might be, as long as you've got your camera on and you're willing to show your face, then, I'll invite you on and we can see, what happens. This show is for everyone, regardless of who you support. Obviously, it's about Tottenham Hotspur, but, whatever it is, you're welcome to come on, have your say, and, get your voices heard. So I'll go around the houses and we'll start with Wes, the tactical genius. So Wes, where can everybody find you?
Right, here we go. Strap in. This is going to be a good one. Twitter @Wezo10, unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account. Always throw that one in there. I try and stay out of a lot of things on Twitter because if not, I'll end up losing my head like you two do on a daily basis with each other. Instagram @Wezo32. You usually see me up and down the country following Spurs. So if I'm not at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I might be at another ground. And I have my own podcast as well, which is usually on a Sunday. I'll try and make it not clash with yours, Luke, just in case. So it's WM32 Football Podcast for that, speaking to different fans about their experiences with their club. And what it's like supporting their club, speaking to different coaches about their coaching journey as well. And then I run my own football coaching business in Milton Keynes, Dele Alli country, helping young boys and girls develop and improve themselves. So it's Kickoff Football Academy or Kofa MK across the socials. Luke, I've covered it all, and I think that's a wrap on that one. But no, thank you for having me on, and make sure people that you subscribe and check these boys out because they do some pretty cool stuff.
Thank you very much. And Harry, how can everyone find you?
Thank you. I have tough to remember as well. Thank you for having me on once again. You can find me here every Sunday, 7 p.m. On Park Lane Podcast. Now just smash that 700 target. Fantastic. You can follow me. My handle's not in there. HarryScarf22 on Twitter. I do like the odd debate with Luke. It has to be said. And you can find lots of different content there. You can also find me on TikTok, HarryScarf22. That's where most of my content is produced. My channel, Scarfy Special, as well, so close to 800 subs. And there's no shows until the new season starts. I've taken like a different route, if you like, and gone down some different content with daily Spurs updates, like the news roundups. And there'll be different, like, for example, videos on managers, on players. A keep or sell thing with Tottenham's coming soon. There'll be a video on Ange coming, I'm sure, in the next couple of days. Stay tuned for that. But no, you can catch me on here next Sunday, 7 p.m. And I'm sure I'll be on someone's show as well. Heads here, there, and everywhere. But thank you for having me on once again.
No problem. I think the Celtic fans are going to have your head for calling him Ange, but we'll move on from that.
Especially me trying to pronounce his second name.
So if you want, follow me on Twitter. I don't really care. More importantly, what I do want you to do, though, is follow us all. Make sure you check out these boys' channels as well. Make sure you're checking out Harry and Wes as well. I'll stick everything on Twitter and in the description as well. But really, what I want is everyone to go ahead, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, come and join us next week and every week as we discuss everything about Tottenham Hotspur, whether you're Enoch in, Enoch neutral, Enoch out. The only people I don't want in are Ange outers. They can get fucked. But I'll see you all next week. Thank you all very, very much for joining. And we'll finish on a big, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.